Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. We're live and at a slightly earlier time today than usual, but if you're watching us the rerun, that won't matter. But if you are watching us live, then please join in, because today we are going to be talking about the 10 hard truths of psychology and life in general. Now, I looked through these hard truths, and some of them I could relate to, and others maybe not so easily. So it will be really interesting if anybody's watching to join in and what you think. Some of them are a wee bit hard hitting, as because they are hard truths, but they are all part of life, I think. And I think it's going to be quite an interesting conversation to go through these today, Jim. I don't know if you've had a look at what I plan to touch on, but I'm sure you'll agree with some of them quite strongly, and others maybe, I don't know. Interesting to see your take on it as well.
A lot of people just don't want to hear the truth because it
Yeah,
exposes the reality they're in right now. I think that's what it comes down to. When you analyze it in a bit of detail.
yeah.
Um, Psychology and life. Immediately, you said 10 hard truths about psychology and life. Somebody's needing to tell me about them then, because I'm still learning
Yeah,
as we go on, and as we evolve, as we gain more experience, life experience. See, there's nothing it can benefit you more than the life experience of another person,
yeah,
and that's the wisdom that you can actually you can learn from, rather than actually having to go through the experience of doing it yourself, because then that's when an older person goes to you, well, I could have told you that would happen. It's like, well, why didn't you? And I
yeah.
think for me personally, this is the purpose of the Wealth Creation Show. Really, is the cornerstone of the Wealth Creation Show is to pass that information, and that wisdom on, uh, to a younger generation, so it's never lost. The one thing that gets me every single time is when people pass on, and they
Mhm.
finally die, and it's like the untold story that they've left. Really, it's like,
And
God
you'll never
Almighty.
get to hear it. You'll never get to hear it because they're gone.
And you'll never get to hear the successes that they've achieved if they've not documented anything, or they've
Mhm.
not recorded anything. And to them, they think, well, it's just me, because that's what most people think. It's just me. But I'll guarantee you, there's at least 1,000 people in this world they would want to hear your story.
Yeah,
And for me personally, there's certain people that I want to hear more about their story, and what I could learn from them, and how that would benefit me, rather than having me to reinvent the wheel. It's like, oh
yeah,
my God, why would I need to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already invented it? I could maybe just take that wheel, use it just now, and possibly over time make it a wee bit better, and then tell other people that's how the wheel should work. I think I think that's where the benefit lies. That's where the
yeah.
huge the huge learning opportunity you can have from someone else with that wealth experience, and don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah, I think as well, it's definitely a two-way thing as well, because although somebody that has got a lot to learn and being aware that they can learn a lot from their peers and other people, I think it's also somebody that's already trodden the path and learned by their mistakes and has got to a certain point in their life. They need to be aware that they could really imprint this knowledge into somebody in the younger
Yeah.
generation and let them
Here's
follow on with
here's a couple of them, the key six, and we'll all come to no, five actually. Your thoughts and feelings aren't always rational. There's a great
it.
one, eh?
Yeah.
And I could probably be testament to that, to a conversation we had when I was away, and I had it back and forward to you, and you'll probably think this guy's no thinking rationally. And
Well,
to be
yeah,
honest, I
yeah.
probably admitted to you I wasn't really thinking rationally anyway.
Mhm.
But that's what happens to you sometimes. You don't
Yeah,
actually realize you're getting entrenched into that. The other one is definitely number 10, is self awareness is actually critical, and the key takeaways that you can get from that. So hold on for these ones, because
yeah,
these will be a huge benefit to you in talking through this. Now,
yeah.
remember, this is just this is actually facts. This is psychological facts that
Mhm.
we're discussing, but this is them talking them and putting them into our own context. Hopefully, like me, I like to learn from other people,
Yeah,
and hopefully somebody out there will maybe think, "Oh, that'll actually make sense to me. Or even my children or grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren or fifth generation, sixth generation down will actually think to themselves, actually, oh, I might actually listen to my great-great-great-great-great-great-granddad's thoughts on
Right.
this.
Yeah.
And that's the point of the wealth creation show for me, the knowledge and expertise left behind. So let's kick off. It's really inevitable, the failure and the and I think the relationships round about us and the power of self-awareness and the
Mhm.
consequences of our choice and these truths and roadmaps that come out of this for personal growth and fulfillment. Everybody's roadmap's going to be different, by the way.
Yeah.
So embracing that reality and arming ourselves with the wisdom that other people have and the courage to create lives of meaning and possibly joy.
Yeah.
Some people, I give myself a hard time every single time. I know one person that gives himself a hard time every single time, and he's brilliant at his craft. Mark Nelson, the comedian,
Okay.
beats himself up all the time.
Okay. How does he beat
Over the
himself up?
Yeah, it's like 1,000 people could love him, but 2 people make a critical comment about him, and he focuses on it far too much.
Yeah.
So
People
if you're
can hold
listening,
that.
Mark, you know what
Yeah.
to do. Care less. Don't care less than you do right now, and actually just accept that some people are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah. And it brings us nicely on to the first point that I've put in here to talk about today, and these 10 hard truths. And the first one is you can't please everyone. And if you try to do that, then you're going to be setting yourself up for failure, I think. And although failure is a big part of obviously learning and developing, you just can't set out to try and please every single person because it will never happen. Um, it's a fundamental truth, I think, really, that you
Well,
can't really.
what's the quote? Let me just tell you the quote. You can please some of the people all the time. You can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this all relates back to it. It's people constantly seeking this external validation, and social media and things is a big part of that. And it's a surefire path, sorry, to really kind of making you, like I say, setting you up for failure, and making you really unhappy with what you're doing because you're trying to please everyone rather than focusing on the people that are kind of aligned with you and relate to what you're actually trying to achieve. Would that be a fair point, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Here's a classic example of house
Hmm.
sales. You go in to see someone, you say, yeah, I think your house will sell quite well in this type of market. Immediately, that other person interprets that like my house is going to sell in 5 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So when you get to the end of the process, you can't determine what the buyer's going to think and how they're going to think and how many buyers are out there. All you can do is market the property as much as possible. But you can easily know in the previous days, I used to get hung up on this and think, God almighty, why is this house not sold in 3 weeks? It's like, why is it not sold in 3 weeks? And I kind of used to beat myself up about all the time, but it's like, well, I can't do anything about that. My
Hmm.
system works. And I'll tell you a classic example. And we've managed to hit a 6-figure amount of money for a 2-bedroom ex-local authority flat
Oh,
in
I know what one that is. Yeah.
Buckhaven. Yeah, a 6-figure amount of money for a 2-bedroom local authority in Buckhaven. That's the first time that's ever happened, ever. We've hit a new pinnacle. And yet there's some people over there actually try to sell their house going, well, why is my house no selling and no doing that and such? It's like you don't know what's going to come from, where it's going to come
Hmm.
from, and who's going to buy your property. But you can't continually beat yourself up like I used to do all the time. You just have to
Yeah.
accept that's the way life is. You can't take someone off the. Why have I not got any viewers? What you want me to physically manhandle people off the street and just haul them into your house?
Yeah.
That's the impression I got sometimes from some sellers. I can't do anything about that. I know my system works and it works far better than everybody else's.
Hmm.
And that's what I have to, that's the thing that I can sort. I have to accept the things outside of the realms that I can't have any influence on at all. Um, and it's people's circumstances. It's like if they can't get a mortgage, I can't do anything about that. They might want to buy the house, but if they can't get a mortgage, I can't do anything about that at all. So these are things you just have to accept.
Yeah.
And you can't please everybody all the time. Remember that.
Yeah. And And I think, I mean, I put examples in here for each one, but that was a really good example you used, obviously, because, I mean, what we do is property. So it's always good that we use examples like that. But I mean, if anybody else has got other examples and things, please feel free to join in the
I'll
comments.
tell you a
But
great analogy here. I'll tell you a
yeah,
great example, and it's along the lines of what you're just about to say. So this is probably a better one because this is real life. I thought becoming an accountant would get me loads of approval from my mum,
yeah. And a lot of people look for that validation for their
and
parents
it
and
did, and it did. My mum thought I was the best buying
things.
beer, if you know what that expression is,
Yeah.
and telling everybody I'm an accountant, I'm an accountant. And see, the day I said the accountant's never going to set me free, I'm not going to be an accountant anymore. It was almost like I had to get over it, and the fact that I felt like I was failing in
Hmm.
life because I no longer wanted to become an accountant. Because an accountant can only earn a certain amount of money. However, a business owner can earn a lot more, and a salesperson can earn a lot more.
Yeah.
The people that make the most money in this world are salespeople. It's not
But
accountants.
doing your accountancy and things has obviously played a big part in what you do and
Of
helps you
course,
along the way, obviously.
it's life
Yeah.
experience. So I've gained that experience, but it's the very fact that it took me a lot of time to get over the hurdle of I no longer want to be in accountancy anymore. I mean, I love accountancy and I really revel in it. And it's numbers and it's analytics. But I can combine it with running a business. And I can combine it with investment as well, and property investment, which is what I do just now.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. I've got a complete, I've got almost like I would say, and I'm personally going to say this, and I couldn't care less what anybody else says. It's like I'm a genius when it comes to property investment.
Mhm.
I just have
It's
it down to like that every
a
single
fine
time.
art,
I could
yeah.
look at something straight away and know if these numbers work and know if that purchase is right for me to do.
It's
Definitely
all
every
about
single
honing
time.
that skill that you've developed this system and this process of doing it, and you just keep doing it, and it works.
I just keep duplicating it.
Yeah.
Why would I change it? And then now and again I might just tweak bits
Mhm.
here and there. And that's the classic example of if I've got that, and that's what set me free. That's why I'm scuba diving in
Mhm.
Lanzarote. That's
Yeah.
why I'm scuba diving in Necker Island. That's what this is why I'm doing all these things
Yeah.
because I've got more or less got a gift for this. I understand it completely. I get it. And if I'd known that earlier on in life, I probably would have pursued that. But I didn't know anybody like that. And I
Mhm.
didn't know any mentors or people that would be in these sort of fields. I never knew that was an option. These things aren't taught at school, by the way. What I was taught at school is to get in front of the careers advisor and become a welder or a fabricator in the dockyard.
Get a trade, yeah.
Yeah. Or earlier on, it was like you could be a miner just like your dad. Not my dad was a miner, but that's what a lot of people were taught
Mhm.
in our area in Methil. Hence the reason why the Proclaimer's going about Methil no more, about closing down the pits and the mines and everything,
Yeah.
and the shipyards. So these are all the things that everybody was expected to go into, and I was expected to go into that as well. And that's how the whole system was indoctrinated at that point in time. No one said, go and run your own business, be your own boss, build your own wealth, build your own empire. But yet, for thousands of years, and I will say thousands, because even in the Roman empires, people were doing things like that. They were running their own businesses, they were having their own empires, they were having they're building all that. But no one ever was there to teach you that because you weren't privy to that information because literally you just relied on the news, the papers
Mhm.
telling
Yeah.
you, which is owned and controlled by a few billionaires, which will actually decide what they want you to hear.
Yeah, and you're advised at a very young age to fall into these categories, ultimately to please other people.
Of course you do.
So that really sums up quite well about you can't please everyone, and do things that please yourself and your own journey. I think definitely, because if you had continued to do things that pleased everyone else, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's a classic example. My father ran a window cleaning company and an industrial cleaning company. Eventually, they moved into industrial cleaning, so offices and all the rest of it,
yeah,
way before anybody else was doing it. If I pursued that, my mother went, "Oh, you didn't. Don't get in your in with your father's business. Don't get involved in that. Go and do something else's." It's like, and yet, if I had actually got involved in that and I had the skills and expertise at that time and I'd learnt the right things, I could have been an initial PLC. I could have been these sort of people. I could have been that organization. I could have built a huge organization, a big, massive company worth millions, hundreds of millions of pounds. I did talk about it on a post the other day. I had a choice to do that, to be in charge of a PLC at some point in time. It was, I was groomed towards that as an accountant, to be a financial director and probably have shares in the company. And I'd probably be worth over 100 million right now. But my life wouldn't be my own. I'd
You
be
would
traveling
be
the world. And what I mean by traveling the world is I wouldn't be enjoying myself. I'd just be going from
business
destination
travel.
to destination, hotel room to hotel room, because I've seen it all before. John and Nancy Lear. John Lear was the head of the rank organization. And I remember speaking to John, when I got a chance, one-off chance to do it. And John was saying, it's like, it's not what it's all made up to be. It's like your life isn't your own. It's your owned and controlled. And you have to work with that company for the rest of your life. And they decide what you do and when you do it. And that's the reward you get from them for doing that. I just didn't want to be that person. I decided when I was investing in property, that was the way forward and not the other way. Although that's the avenue I wanted to be. I wanted to be the tiny Roland and the of Lonro and the Richard Branson of Virgin. I wanted to be the Alan Sugar of Amstrad. I wanted to be the Ralph Harpin of the Burton Group at the time, because I used to read all about all these people in the business news with Rick Sky, I think it was, or something like that. Or it could have been Piers Morgan, actually, the business page of the Sun. So
Yeah.
I used to read about all these people and thought, I would love that's the person I want to be one day.
But then the path that you did take, although it's the lifestyle, because although you've created wealth, maybe not as much as 100 million, but you've got a completely different
Yeah,
lifestyle.
you wouldn't have the lifestyle like that at 100
No,
million.
no.
You'd be worth 100 million, but you wouldn't have that lifestyle because you'd have to keep working for the rest of your life to maintain that.
And do you really need 100 million?
No.
Right,
Maybe
yeah.
everybody else needs 100 million. That's entirely up to you. But there's a point where you think to yourself, how much more do I need?
Yeah.
It's like I go on what I need rather than what I want. So I don't want for anything really. If I need something, I'll get it, and that's about it really. So this comes back to saying, as I said, about pleasing everybody. You can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah.
I think as well, the second one you talked about here, failure and rejection, are inevitable. You will learn more from failure and rejection than you will from success.
Yeah, because I think failure, when you fail at something or you're rejected by someone or in a situation, it hits a lot harder than what the actual success does, I think.
Yeah. How many people can walk?
Obviously.
Yeah. Everybody out there. How many people can walk? Everybody out there. How many times did you fail at walking? And at any point, did anybody turn around to you and say, "Oh, forget the walking thing, Sonny. You'll never be able to manage it"? No. Everybody encouraged you every single time, didn't they? And that's my point. You learn more. You learn to walk by failure. You learn mathematics by failure. You learn to talk by failure, by getting the words wrong. And then piecing them together. You learn everything by failure. You just have to make sure the failure is not to the point where it wipes you out. That's all, especially in business. So failure is your biggest teacher, but failure is the biggest teacher, but someone else's failure is even a bigger teacher, because then it shows you what you shouldn't possibly do, or how to navigate the field without actually going through that failure yourself and actually taking the hit. In other words, what I would say is you just want to make sure you just want to make sure your success outweighs all your failures.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you also raised quite a good point there when you use the analogy of learning how to walk. And when you do fail while you learn how to walk when you're a child, you're encouraged by everybody around you to keep going. And but a lot of people later in life, in adult life, if you fail at something, a lot of people like to shoot you when you're down, rather than try and bring you up and encourage you. Yeah.
There's a couple of businesses going on just now who've actually failed, and will the public let them forget? Absolutely not. And it's like the guys failed. The two of them have failed at some point in time, but now they're back on their feet. They've got success now. But it's like, no. Joe Blogs in the street will not let that person forget it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the worst thing you could ever do. What point of end game do you want for that person that you keep reminding them of their failure? Do you want them not to be here? Is that how far you want it to go?
And that's how far some people are pushed, especially people in the public eye.
It baffles me how people are, how people will be like that. And some of the people watching this are like that. I even sometimes catch myself doing that. And it's like, for God's sake, Jim, it's like, how far do you want to push someone?
Yeah.
To that inevitable, and so failure and rejection are definitely going to be inevitable, and it's going to be in romantic. It's like what you've said here, romantic. It's going to be social. I've had that. It's going to be professional. I've had that as well. Some guy actually told me one day, it's like, yeah, when he did a job interview, you maybe need to tone it down a bit in your job interview. You seem a bit too enthusiastic. It's like, Christ almighty, what you want me to be like? Oh,
Well, maybe all
I'm here
doom and
for the
gloom.
job.
Yeah.
It might go all right. I see your business is quite good. It's like, you're doing no bad. It's like that. Is that what you were expecting?
That's crazy.
Needless to say, that person's probably still working.
Yeah.
But that's the sum. So remember, you could be as enthusiastic as possible, and you'll attract the right people. That's another one as well. Don't ever change. If you're convinced that you're on the right track, don't change. Be you.
Yeah.
Everybody else will change to accommodate you. The people that will attract to you are the people that you should be with. And that means you will be following in congruence with your beliefs in life. In congruence with your beliefs. Like, I believe your word is your bond. I believe if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I believe if you say you're going to turn up at this time, you're going to turn up at this time.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of beliefs. That's what I'm talking about. Your core beliefs. I believe you should not steal. It's the Ten Commandments thing. I believe you should not murder. I believe you should not go to war. I believe, all these different things and beliefs that people have, they're in congruence with what they do. They shouldn't try to change to accommodate just for someone else. It's not the right person you're with then, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Your happiness shouldn't be dependent on someone else. Your happiness should be dependent on you and from within you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think when it comes to failure and rejection, you really need to, develop that resilience against it, and not look at it as such a negative thing, and use it as an opportunity to develop and take it as a challenge, and a learning opportunity to progress and be better at whatever you're trying to achieve, rather than letting it take over you. And like, some people let it totally consume them, and that's the wrong way to use it. Flip it on its head.
This is a frightening prospect. I don't really mean frightening, but if you think about it, if I had taken that career path, that sliding doors moment, and actually been in charge of that PLC, Ben and Scott wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
My sons. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Anything. I'd never have any regrets. If my boss hadn't bullied me out the door at Tillis Russell, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, if people hadn't rejected me at that point in time, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be at this point. And it's like, wow, wait till you get to this point. It's like, God almighty, it's like the world's your oyster.
Yeah, I mean,
you could have anything and everything you really wanted, ever. Way beyond anybody's dreams.
you might still be somewhere in industry working 60, 70 hours a week, and
I'd be bloody good at it though.
Well, I'm quite sure you would, but
I'd be the best. So you got to remember, all the failure you've had so far has led you to where you are at this point in time. And if you like where you are, thank God for the failure then.
Yeah, embrace that. Yeah, because everything that you've done, whether it's good or bad or failure or success, if you're happy where you are right now and what you've achieved, then that's all contributing to the place that you're in just now.
And we'll just finish off with this one, go to the next one in a minute, just now. But I remember my mentors used to say to me, Jim, you are where you are by the decisions you've taken or the decisions you've let other people take for you. You've only yourself to blame. I was like, it's a bit harsh. It's like, but it's true.
Yeah, it is true, because when people fail or things go wrong, I've noticed, and I've done it myself over the years, the first thing you want to do is blame somebody else. And it's like, no, you need to, like, no, right, okay, that's back to me.
Classic example is people will look for something to strengthen their argument. Whatever it is
Yeah.
you're arguing about, you look for something to strengthen. Here's a really good analogy, or a really good idea of what to do. Is if you think you've got the right answer, try and prove yourself wrong.
hmm That's quite an
And if you
interesting
can't
take
prove
on it.
yourself wrong, then you'll know you've got the right answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so number three then.
Yeah, number 3, let's get through it because there is 10 of them. So, yeah, your experiences shape your beliefs and your behaviors. So, I mean, common to popular belief, we don't have as much free will as we'd like to believe. Much of who we are is determined by the factors outside what our actual control. Do you know what it could be, like family dynamics, culture, socioeconomics, do you know, social media things? Everything has such a big influence on us, and those experiences and how we believe things is shaped by that. And
The media.
yeah, the media is a big part.
Media,
And
of course, it's
yeah,
influences all the time.
yeah,
You know, we get told, we know this because if you look back to things like World War II and World War One, and you find out all the propaganda that was going on at that time, deliberately engineered to make sure, you know, uh, uh, Baking with Ben, we're not going to see that because it's not relevant to the show. But just to say we're live, Ben, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And Baking with Ben, thanks very much for your comment. Anyway, apart from that, um, so you're right, and it's your beliefs that are shaped by someone else and your peer group round about you. Here's a, I mean, this is why people turn out, you know, sometimes on the wrong side of the law,
hmm
because all they've ever done is grown up in that environment, and they
yeah,
think that's the normal way to act. And then everybody looks at them like they've got two heads and thinks, "How could you do that?" It's like, because that's all they've ever known. That's why they're doing it. They don't know anything different. They've never been outside of their own environment.
hmm They
So
just think
that's
that
why they
that's
all act
normal.
like that.
That's yeah,
This is why you get here's a classic example. This is why you get feral cats. And then next minute the feral cats are tamed. Because over time you know get the wee scratching thing out
Mhm.
and the wee fork scratching fork and you just pat them and all the rest of it and 3 weeks later they're like domesticated, rolling
Yeah,
over on their back and it's like getting their tummy all the rest of it and getting cuddles and it's like you think to yourself, and it's because the feral cat's only ever grown up in an environment where it's had to fight for everything.
yeah,
And it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you get you know food and water and shelter, you
hmm
then move on to and eventually you move on to self-actualization, which is like I want to be the best at this now that I've got everything else that fulfills my requirements. These are the sort of things, your experiences that shape your beliefs and your behaviors over time. Um,
yeah,
and we talked about this. You've got an example here about growing up in a household where anger was freely expressed, and then lashing out was an acceptable way to deal with frustration causing difficulties in adult relationships, because then you find somebody, a partner in life that you absolutely adore and
who'd
love.
grown up differently
Aye,
from you. Yeah.
and they're a good one is here's a good one. Here's a really good one example of me personally. So I grew up in an environment where you were loved because of your attainment. In
hmm
other words, if you got 90%, 95%, 100% in an exam, that was kind of how love was expressed from your parents. Oh, well
hmm
done, and all the rest of it. Not, I just love you for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Elaine's environment, that's how she was growing up. That's how she grew up. I just love you for the sake of it. I just love you. That's it.
hmm hmm
So when the two of us got together and then we eventually had children, it kind of became a wee bit difficult because I was very competitive and pushing them all the time, whereas Elaine was like, I love you just
Doesn't matter
regardless.
what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we butted heads sometimes on how we do parenting styles and stuff like that.
But then that's
But
too
then I
good.
began to realise
Good.
over time
Yeah.
with actually reading and developing my skills and all the different books that this what I grew up in wasn't really a normal environment.
hmm
But what Elaine grew up in wasn't really a normal environment either. And in terms of what I was, it's a combination. You're
Yeah.
thrown into parenthood. There's no qualifications for it, by
Without
the way.
a handbook, yeah.
You just have children.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's how where your experiences shape your beliefs and behaviors.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's for me anyway. I mean, there's obviously other experiences and things throughout your life that shape how you believe and how you behave. But I think a lot comes from your childhood and how you're brought up, and those influences really early on in life. And that's why I put that example in there, because I
So
think
let's
it is.
shift on to number 4 then.
Yeah.
What's number 4?
So, well, change and pushing yourself out your comfort zone. Change requires discomfort. And you know, I brought this up recently, and we done an online training with somebody who's really successful in the business world, is Tom Panos, and he says you really need to get yourself to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I love that, because it really is the only way to kind of progress. And if you shy away and don't do things that make you uncomfortable, your success is going to be less than what it should be, because you just need to keep pushing yourself. Personal development, it's really a necessity to challenge yourself and face that uncomfortable situation.
If you're not uncomfortable at this point in time in your life, and you're looking to succeed, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing.
Yeah,
You're not learning anything new. You're not, it's the classic of me. I've got to play tennis, and I've got to play chess and all the rest of it, and I've got to go out and do that. So I have to become comfortable being uncomfortable about trying to learn to play tennis.
yeah.
Scuba diving, just done it now. So past my paddy, I'm now a scuba diver, but I had to become uncomfortable with being in the water and
I would be
having,
quite
all
uncomfortable
that
in the
equipment.
water.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so for me, it was what's going to force you to that point? What's going to get you to that point?
Mhm.
And definitely it's all about change, and it's all about, I wouldn't necessarily say it's all about pushing yourself forward. I think it's necessary about just accepting the fact that you have to become uncomfortable in order to grow. And if you don't grow, you'll just have what you've got just now. And if you're not happy with what you've got just now, then you're going to have to grow, because you can't continue to do the same things
Yeah.
but expect a different result.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to keep doing something and expecting the same. Do you know? Expecting the same, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I noticed on our YouTube comments, Lisa joined us on the midweek show from. You're in the USA, Alicia. So yeah, you're definitely right. Challenge yourself and push yourself outside your comfort zone. It is one of the best ways to help yourself progress and develop, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a professional capacity or in a personal capacity. Think it's always good to push yourself. And change is a good thing. And I know a lot of people don't like it, but it is the best way to move forward.
Thoughts and feelings. Number
Yes.
5. Aren't always rational. This is the one for me, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I often talk about self-sabotage,
Hmm.
how a lot of people who are so-called serial entrepreneurs, which I call serial starter-uppers. Well, I don't call them. Keith Cunningham does,
Yeah.
from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He calls them serial starter-uppers. And they have the great comfort of, they love the starter-upping process, because it's motivation, and it's all about the burnout. It's I'm doing my time. I'm
Hmm.
treading the boards. I'm going for it, and I'm the excitement of starting a business. And then what happens is they get to the plateau of, this is pretty boring now, because I'm doing the same thing all the time. There's nothing exciting about it anymore. And what happens is some owners realize that, and they go, well, that's okay. Boring pays well, by the way. So let's get bored now, and let's look at how we can grow later on once we get this done and put systems in place, because that's what usually happens. You get to the boring bit, and that's when you start to put systems in place in
Yeah.
order to accommodate that and grow that. And then you go for another growth spurt. But quite a few people actually get to that plateau of the starting up the business, or starting up what they're starting up, and they get bored, and they start to self-sabotage, because rather than accepting boredom in their life, they need the excitement. And
Hmm.
they'll even go to the point of actually being disruptive, and in order to get that
And
excitement,
self
even though it's bad
sabotage
for them.
just to create that. Yes, to create that atmosphere. Yeah.
And that's why we said your thoughts and feelings aren't always rational. So think. Now this is difficult for me to say because it's often I just go, whoa. But it's often think. Definitely the one thing I've learned is take time to think about what you're about to react to or what you're about to say.
Yeah.
That's the key here. Take time and think about it and question your assumptions and looking at your mental patterns of objectively is actually essential. So, in
Yeah.
other words, why are you doing this? Why are you acting like this? Why are you being disruptive? This is what happens in people's relationships.
Yeah.
They get, they get this sort of, oh, like, we'll have a child. Well, why are you having a child? Because there's no excitement in our life. We're just doing the same thing over and over again now. Oh, let's have another child because we're now bored. Let's have another child because we're now bored. These are the sort of things that people, couples go through sometimes. Or I'm going to start a new job. Well, why are you starting a new job? Oh, I'm just bored where I am.
Yeah.
Well, go tell your boss that you're bored, and he'll tell you, or she'll tell you. It's like, okay, let's get you involved in this
Let's get
project
you
then.
doing that. Then, yeah.
Don't just decide for yourself. Go and tell. Inform people, communicate. That's how you'll get forward in life. That's how you'll grow and be better at what you want in life. I think that's the key. So watch out for your
Initial
feelings and your
thoughts and
thoughts,
feelings. Yeah.
and they aren't always rational. Sometimes you just go off the deep end, and
Yeah.
then you wake up the next day and think, God, why did I do that? Where did that come from? Sometimes it's actually exhaustion. Sometimes it's huge amounts of bursts of cortisol, you get in your system,
Yeah.
which is highly addictive.
And you're reacting and doing
Yeah.
things really your normal self maybe wouldn't or rationally wouldn't do.
I was speaking to a estate agent the other day, actually, just online, and he was going
Mhm.
on about celebrating his success and how he's over in America and he's at a conference and how he's dealing with stuff sitting on the beach. And I went, yeah, I've been there. I says, now is the time, or maybe a couple of months before that was about to happen. That was the time where you should have got a VA, a virtual assistant, or someone involved in helping you out. Because it's like a cruise ship when you have a business like that, it's growing. It's like a cruise ship leaving the harbour. It builds up momentum, builds up speed. And then by the time you know it and you're meant to slow down or you're meant to do something else or change direction, it's difficult to do because you've put nothing in place. In other words, your rudder's no big enough now
Yeah.
to change direction. So therefore, you just keep going straight on, and it's taking you to a place where you're not able to maintain it or manage it.
You're not able to manage
This
it.
is
Yeah.
why, this is why you have to foresee these things that happen. This is why listening to other people that have been through it before. So I said, you should, and he said, actually, I think you're right. It says now, and it says, aye, and as well, make sure you don't get addicted to the process.
Yeah. Yeah, we see that as a lot in property investment and things as well. And we see a lot of new investors and things coming in, and they'll buy a property, and what they want to do is just tear it apart. And it's like,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? And they keep doing it and keep doing it. It's like you don't need to do that every time.
Oh, look at my numbers. Look at my numbers. Look at my numbers. It's like, okay, your numbers are shite. It's like you're only making 6%. I'm making 15% plus, and sometimes infinite on what I'm doing, and that's me just buying it straight away.
Mhm.
It's like, and I'm not needing to do anything. I'm not needing to rip anything apart. What are you doing? But they like the excitement and they like the likes, the feed off social media in
Yeah.
terms of what they're doing. Exactly what we're doing here. I'm no serious.
No, I think TikTok and Instagram influences that kind of mindset about property investment and things and
Of
renovation.
course, it is. Every other idiot's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. Every other idiot's doing it. And that's all I could call them, because they're no gurus. They don't know what they're doing. They're just on there for accolades and likes and dopamine hits and all the rest of it. They like the exposure. They like the attention. They're probably yellows. They're extroverts. They like people. Oh, look at him. Look at her. Look at that person. It's like, oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's like, who cares? It's like, I could happily. Well, I did. I've actually farming out social media to everybody else now. It's like, I don't want to do it. And I did say to you, the day that I retire is the day I will disappear from social media completely. I don't
Yeah.
care about it. It is an effective tool and an effective medium to get your message across.
Yeah.
That is it, point blank.
It's an instant thing. Yeah. Do you know what it's like? But definitely. So yeah, be aware of your initial thoughts and feelings, and always think, maybe are they rational? Take that step back and think about it before you act or respond to things. Let's move on to the next one, which is relationships. And relationships require work. And that's not just, like, we're not talking about just romantic or personal relationships, we're talking about business relationships and any kind of relationship between people. It's everybody kind of has this, like, obviously when it comes to romantic relationships, the notions of that effortless love and things, but it's not always like that. And relationships require a wee bit of effort and some compromise throughout that as well. And so most romantic or platonic or professional connections can sometimes always also be quite temporary. So appreciating a relationship properly and not being unrealistic, I think, with expectations allows you to really make the most of any relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I thought you were going to have a lot more to interject with relationships here, Jim.
Well, we've already spoke about relationships
I know,
and
we've covered
why
quite a
they
lot.
work and why people become disruptive and why people, the grass is greener. It's a
Yeah,
classic. It's a
always.
lot of people actually see that. They look at someone else, superficial beauty, and they think, why have I not got that? The Instagram effect.
Mm-hmm.
Why have I not got that? It's like they've not got it either. That's only a snapshot in a picture. It's made up.
Yeah.
They've not got that, by the way. And their life doesn't run like that. As my friend used to always say, everybody shits in the toilet. That's
Yeah.
it. Even the king or the queen or whoever it is, they
Yeah.
all go to the toilet at some point in time. We're all the same. It's what you put them on, the pedestal that you put them on, and it's the expectations you have of your partner. This is why if your partner is there for your happiness to be dependent on for the rest of your life, you've got the wrong person,
You're
or
in
you need to
yeah,
get yourself a checkup from the neck up.
yeah, you're definitely in trouble if that's the way you think. But
Because
yeah, and I think
that's doomed for failure. Because that person can't sustain making you happy for the rest of your life. Only you can do that. Happiness comes from within, and once you have happiness from within, that's why it will spread out to everybody else.
yeah, when it comes to relationships, I think for me the most important thing is a lot of people, and whether that's jobs and people serially moving job or people continually sabotaging their personal relationships, is because they always think the grass is greener, and it's
Yeah,
not. You need to work on what you've got, because it could be an amazing thing if you work on it properly. So that for me in relationships, I think that's the most important thing.
yeah.
Um,
This is why we talked about, and Alicia's actually saying this to a degree. This is why we talk about thoughts and feelings and rationality and relationships
yeah,
require work. And even as an employer, this is why I say to people, it's like if you join this company that we've got and at the ground level, and you show aptitude where you can add value straight away to what we are doing, I'll promote you more or less overnight. And I'll
hmm
keep promoting you to a point comes where if you're continually adding value and bringing more business in all the time off your own back, not as a result of we. In other words, you're an order generator,
yeah,
not an order taker. You're the one that generates the business, not the business that generates it for you. That's when you're invaluable to anybody, to any employer, or even
yeah,
any business or anybody else. And this is where you add value into what you're doing. So this is why it's so important to have conversations with these people and also acknowledge them for who they are and what they do.
yeah. Definitely. And Lucinda said there, I think these should include these kind of what we talk about in these sessions in the national curriculum, because all this stuff that we cover, it's not taught to the younger generation. It's not part of the education system or anything.
No, it's never. I think we've got into a society where we teach people to be hurt by their feelings.
Yeah, you're
Like,
probably right
what's
with
going
that.
on with that? It's oh, you've hurt my feelings. It shouldn't be like that. It's like you've had your feelings hurt. Let's look at why you've had your feelings hurt.
Why you
Is it
feel
the
like
way
that?
you perceive the world and the way you think about something? Maybe you need to reframe that. Maybe
Mhm.
you need to look at that a different way because someone else looks at that and thinks that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, everybody's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the other person. It's the person that's had their feelings hurt in that situation. Is the person that has to analyze for themselves as why do I feel so emotional or hurt by this when someone else probably isn't? What is it about me? It's made me like that. Self-analytical. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
self-critical, but self-analytical.
Analytical, yeah.
Understanding yourself is so important. How you tick and how you do things in order to set yourself free, in order to stop and unload that baggage you've got all your life. We all carry baggage mentally throughout our life, and the objective here is to offload that baggage as quick as possible. Especially if that's holding you back. It's literally just like a mule. You're just constantly getting, baggage put on the back of you
And put
as
on,
you're
yeah,
walking
added
along.
on.
It's like, my God, at some point in time, you're going to have to take that. This is the old adage about people say, obviously you're going to have to do something about that on your shoulder. It's like, what's that? It's the chip that you've got. It's the thing that you've got on your shoulder about how hard done by you are. It's like
Yeah.
you've been dealt a hand in your life that you maybe know other people haven't been dealt. It's like you're just going to have to play that hand and not piss and moan for the rest of your life about it,
Yeah. People spend their
because
whole
that's going to
lives,
get you nowhere.
yeah, feeling sorry for themselves, which is quite it's quite astonishing how much people do actually let it consume them. But anyway, let's talk about life. And number 7 is life is unpredictable. And I think anything that happens in your life is nothing's certain. I think there's a lot of uncertain and outside your own influence that happens in your life. But things like perfectionism and over planning and things, they provide people with that illusion that they're in control. But it could
Yeah.
often lead to some frustration and things because you can't control everything right down to the like micromanaging and things. That can't be sustained. And some things are unpredictable and you need to be
Oh, I've
prepared
tried
to
it.
deal with it. Yeah.
I've tried micromanaging. It's no good.
No,
It
it's
just,
not.
I tell you, it'll, it'll burn you out trying to do things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
If you're having to micromanage somebody, you've probably got the wrong person, to be honest.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
you're maybe needing to think about what you're actually doing and what you're trying to achieve. And this is the thing, when some people say, I'm going to go at them all guns blazing, I'm going to catch them out of this, or whatever it is they're going to say, I usually say, so what's your end goal then? What are you trying to
Why are
achieve
you
at the
doing
end
that?
of this? Yeah, I've probably done it with you, Richard, at some point in time, but I've done it with myself and I've had it done to me.
Yeah.
What is your end goal about what you're just about to do? It's like, well, I'm just wanting to tell them off. Aye, but your end goal almost sounds like you're trying to get rid of that person.
Mhm.
It's like, so you maybe need to approach that a different way. Oh, I never
Yeah.
thought it like that. So these are sort of things, but definitely, as you said, life is completely unpredictable. You can only control the things that you can control, and you just have to accept the things you can't. The budget. Everybody's been going on about the budget. The chancellor. Oh, we're going to get nailed to the wall with tax or this and tax and that. It's not even happened yet, by the way.
We
It's
haven't
like, and
seen it.
everybody's assumed that we're going to get nailed to the wall in tax, and I'm going, yeah, okay, we're all going to get nailed to the wall with tax. And
Mhm.
what's your point? We're all going to be in the same boat. Incidentally, this is an era we've gone into with the government, where an Orwellian era, where
Uh-huh.
actually the pigs are actually wearing trousers now.
Yeah.
That's where I see it. It's like some are more equal. We're all equal, but some are more equal than others at this
Yeah.
point in time.
Oh, I
I
definitely
think
agree.
that's the type of
That
government we've got just now. When is a worker not a worker? When he's a landlord. Wait a minute. I put a tenant in, and then also I then vet them. I then move them in. I have to go around and do that. I then have to drop their lease. I then have to make sure all the certifications are done. I do all that, as a self-managed landlord. And then I also have to take the calls and the maintenance and all the rest of it. But I'm not a worker because I'm a landlord. And yet, if I gave it to a letting agent like you, Richard, you're a worker. And it's the
yeah.
same jobs.
Yeah. It's crazy when you
Work
put
that
when you
one
put it
out.
out like that. Yeah, I know.
This is a government that has no idea what they're doing. They're making it up as they go along, like
Yeah,
most governments do.
it
They
does
just
feel
look
like
more
that.
credible. Look at Trump. He just says it. And he just, it's like the sheer determination. No, no, it's right. And this is a guy that more or less tries to convince you 1 and 1 is 4.
Yeah.
And everybody, half of the population's going, yeah, he's right. It is. And half the population are going, can you not see that? He's not.
That's how crazy it is, I know. Yeah.
But that's the same with everything. It's not just him. I just singled him out because he's,
Yeah, that's an example.
flavour of the month with the election going on in America. It'll be interesting because I'll be there in America at the time when the election's going on.
Actually,
I'll be across in Miami and Necker. So life is unpredictable. You just have to accept it. You've got a great example in here. Imagine a meticulously planned outdoor wedding. Despite your best efforts, it rains on the day. At this point, you have no choice. Let it rain, or let it ruin the celebration, or find joy and dancing in beneath the raindrops with your beloved. This is why I say every single time when people go, it's raining, I just go, liquid sunshine.
Yeah. If it didn't rain, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, just reframe it.
Yeah.
I remember the older generation used to say, hey, the garden's getting watered.
Yeah.
And it's just the things you have to, it's fine. Again, it's how you look at it. You just have to see you have to be the optimist. You have to be the glass is half full rather than the glass is half empty. Because the glass is half empty, yes, it will pull you down over time and lead you into the depths of despair, which you don't want to go. Because trust me, I've been there. And it's not a nice place to be.
Yeah. And then you're absolutely right. Yeah. Unpredictability of life. But then the next one I think might be a wee bit controversial for people, but number 8 is pain and suffering. And it is just part of life. And a lot of people maybe don't want to accept that. And I think suffering, I mean, it's quite a prolific word, but suffering, while it's unpleasant, can really make you realize and enhance your wisdom and things when you, let's take the death of someone, and that's quite a suffering pain point for a lot of people, and a lot of people try and bottle up that emotion and don't let their feelings show, but really I think to embrace that feeling and process it properly will inevitably help you grow and make you a much better person, and mentally I think as well, because to try and bottle up that kind of emotion is not good for you. And so it's really, I think, about embracing those points in life where pain and suffering, things happen, and I think losing a loved one is quite a good example.
It's quite interesting, Richard, and I've always thought about this. You know, when I lost my best friend Alan, 55-year-old, got up one day, massive stroke during the night, and next day they switched off the machine. It was like, I remember going to his funeral and I was in absolute tears and bits. It's like I couldn't maintain myself, and I found it really difficult. I went to my dad's funeral and was like, yeah, I got up and made a speech and that was it. Got on with it. And I never grieved at all, really.
Why do you think you dealt with them so differently?
I saw it coming with my father because he had Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So I knew someday that would happen. So inevitably, I saw him just wither away in front of me over a longer period of time. So I think I was, a bit more desensitized to it on the day because it wasn't sudden. It was like it's coming. That's it, whether you like it or no. There's a couple of things that obviously haunt me. Still, it's like when I walked into the room and he says they're not going to do anything, and then that was the end of it. That was onto the driver, and we're off to Never Land after that. And that's the sort of thing that haunts me a wee bit. But but it's interesting that one of my best friends. It's like I was in total bits with that, and yet my father, who's obviously closer, in January this year on the 25th, and I never batted an eyelid. I got up and made the speech and everything. But I felt compelled to do that because I always planned to do that anyway. I always reconcile myself to the fact that, years and years ago, I said, I'm going to say something at his funeral and I'm going to say something profound, something to remember him by. And I don't think personally, I can't stand funerals that you go along and they were a cabinet maker and they did this and they did that. It's like, no, tell me about their life. Know what their job was. Tell me about, fair enough, you can tell me that, but you don't focus on it. What type of person were they? This is just me personally. What type of person were they? How many people's lives did they touch? How many people's lives did they help as a result? What type of person were they? Not what they did.
Like the scripted rundown of their life. It's a wee bit monotonous.
Yeah.
I tend to agree. I know what you mean.
I want to know people. I want to know people for who they are, what they do. I want to know their journey. I want to know their life. I want to learn something from them. Even in their death, I want to learn something from them.
Yeah.
You know, what was it? What was the, you know, things that, like, you know, your biggest regret, stuff like that. All these different things. These are the sort of things that I think, you know, this is
This is
knowledge
what we
and
want to
information
know. Yeah.
that can help the generation to come. You know, maybe you should, you know, I know it's a bit morbid, but a podcast of people on their deathbed, you know, it can, like,
No,
interviewing people
it's
on their
something that
deathbed.
no one's
Here we
ever
go.
done.
It's like you know, you've got a terminal illness. You've got this amount. I mean, what's his name came out just now? Chris, was it the cyclist?
Oh, Chris
Boardman.
Hoy.
Oh,
Is it
Chris
Chris?
Hoy. Chris
Chris
Hoy
Hoy.
came out and talked about his terminal cancer. It's
Prostate
stage
cancer.
4.
Yeah.
He's had it. He's no coming back.
Yeah. And
That's it.
his
And he
wife's
never knew
also
anything about
got,
prostate cancer. And the
yeah.
next minute, his wife's got, you know, coming MS.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like, God, talk about lucky white heather.
I know.
But look at the amount of people they're going to help as a result of telling their story.
Hmm.
The generations to come, because it's all documented in there, and how important it is for people to get checked. Even his best pal went and got checked because he had something wrong, and they caught his, and it's now
See.
treatable.
Yeah.
And yet he would never have known if Chris hadn't told that story. And this is why I think telling stories about their past, and, you know, what's helped them and what's not helped them, is a real benefit. And I think being a student of life is more important than an education.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life's not going to be full of roses and happy-go-lucky all the time. And you're kidding yourself if you think that. I think there is going to be some pain points and points of suffering, but it's all part of the journey, and you need to make it all part of the journey and learn from it as you go and use it as that
Yeah.
learning. Yeah.
I
I
come
think
from a family where something happened and you just went,
and
push it down.
suppress your emotions,
Oh,
and
oh,
it's not a good
pain.
thing.
Get it down there. Get it.
Yeah.
Just push it down. Get it down. It's like, don't let it out. Don't show it. It's like, just bury it.
But burying your feelings then manifests and comes out in really weird different ways.
Well, I think it ends up, things like that is toxic to you. I think ends up you'll have probably some sort of terminal illness or some sort of ailment in your later life, and it's
Yeah.
as a result of just keeping everything in.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's almost like drink. It's like the thing about holding a grudge against someone else. It's like drinking poison and expecting another person to die.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, the other person probably doesn't even know you've got a grudge against them. Hey, I mean, I've
No,
got a hate club.
none the
I've got a
wiser, and
fan
you're
club,
like,
the
yeah.
Jim Parker Hate Club, and it's like, oh hey,
And they're
I've
letting
made it. I've got a
letting
hate
all
club.
that time consume all their time, and really, who cares? Yeah. A lot of people do that, and like you say, some people might even be oblivious to it, and they're
Well,
letting it totally
and
consume all their time.
30 years ago, I'd be going, why do people hate me? And it's now I'm not bothered. What your opinion of me is none of my concern.
Yeah. Other people's opinion of you has nothing to do with you. Yeah. So, right, let's move on because we're obviously, I'm conscious of time and we've still got 9 and 10. Now, 9 and 10 you'd already touched on at the start. So, your choices have consequences is number 9.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I think, like, obviously, your decisions and your behaviours, they do have impacts, even if not maybe immediately apparent. They do have impacts on others, and you're responsible for your life and you're accountable for your choices. And blaming others, as we spoke about earlier, and making excuses will ultimately just hinder your own growth and your personal power if you can't really embrace that and think that the choice that you've made maybe wasn't the right one and it wasn't somebody else's fault. So yeah, your choices do have consequences, but you just need to embrace what they are, whether they're positive or negative.
It's quite interesting. Alicia said, my accountability comment disappeared. Well, we've no taken off. You've obviously not hit the return button.
You must have not pushed
You've obviously not hit the return button to actually put the comment on here, because we can't see it.
No, I can't see it either.
Unless it's been a controversial one and YouTube's gone censored.
Sometimes they do that, yeah. But if it's a wee bit of things, then they will take it out without us seeing it on the list. But it's not there, Lisa. So you could stick it in the comments again.
All your choices. You know, you're right. It's your decisions that you've made, the decisions that you failed to make. your behaviours to other people, all these different things, mount up over a period of time. So if you are that toxic sort of person, you'll attract other people that are toxic like you, more than likely, and you'll be wondering, why the hell are these people hanging about me? Because you're just like them, by the way.
You don't even realise that you're just the same.
Do you remember the expression, misery loves company?
Mm-hmm.
Misery loves company. They like to get down and have that pity party in that pit. It's like,
Wallow in
I'm
your
not getting
sin.
down there with you. It's like, I'm not remotely interested in being miserable. I mean, who starts out their life and thinks, yeah, I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life? But some people do that.
Yeah.
And they don't know they're doing it. I certainly don't want to do it.
No.
Let's
definitely.
move on to self-awareness is critical then. Final one.
Yeah, you're self-aware, and that kind of ties in as well. I mean, your self-awareness of yourself, and it is really critical. And an unexamined life quickly becomes mirrored in like unconscious kind of patterns and limitations and things as well. And understanding what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, where you add value, your desires and things as well. It creates that foundation for your life. I'm going to say satisfaction, will we say contentment and things as well, because you're so aware of yourself and how you obviously react in certain situations and where you have a strength and have a weakness and things as well. Self-awareness can sometimes be a wee bit uncomfortable because you might not want to address how you actually are as a person.
Yeah, society teaches us that we should be happy every single day.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'll
not
be
going to
honest, it's bullshit. And you will not be happy every single day. And if you've got an expectation that you should be happy every single day, you're going to be pretty miserable for the rest of your life. You can maybe be content every single day, and that'd be a good goal, just to be content. And do you know my greatest point of being content? I said it to Tony when I was on holiday. I wake up in the morning, I've got a pulse.
You're
Hey,
alive.
it's going to be a great day. I'm still here. I'm still here. I've got my health. I've got my, all the rest of it. That's contentment, definitely. And if you have a goal of contentment every single day, do you think you'll be happy if that's your goal? Do you think you'll be happy hitting that goal every single day? You
Yeah.
bet you will be. And you'll be happier more times with that goal than you will be of being happy every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I could agree. I could relate to that and understand it, as opposed to trying to be happy-go-lucky all
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. So, and it's self-awareness. It's that thing it would talked about and allows you to live life on your terms, but live life with passion and intention. Intention. There's nothing more important to a human being as having some sort of purpose in life. This is why people fall by the wayside. This is why people end up in drugs. This is why people become addicted, alcoholics, cigarettes, drugs, gambling, you name it. This is why people have addictions, is because they don't have a true self with purpose and they don't have true connection with other people round about them. They're not in the group that they should be in. And they're seeking an external, stimulus to give them that, to give them what they would get from that group. The dopamine hit, the cortisol, burst. All these different things. That's why people become addicted. It's a mental illness. It's not a physical illness, if that makes sense. And the way that it's treated is completely different. It's daft. The way drug addiction is treated. It's because there's no connection, no social connection. So they just disappear and they think, just like, I'll just knock myself out because I don't feel great. But I tell you what, I feel great if I just knock myself out.
Just numb the reality, basically.
Yeah, numb the reality of what's going on around about them or what's not going on around about them. They don't want to accept it. And I think being around other people, they will accept it as a result. So this is a lot of different things. And self-awareness is probably the most critical one that you could be. It's just be self-aware. Not self-critical, by the way, just self-aware.
Yeah.
Critical's not going to be good for you. That's toxic. Self-aware. Just realise who you are, where you are right now, and just see if you can build on it every day. Do you think over 365 days, which is a year, you could maybe get slightly better than you are right now.
You
Yeah, I
just
think
make that small change every day.
yeah.
One small change, yeah.
Learning to speak a different language. Just learn a new word every day of that language. And it'll come to you at some point in time. 365 words of the core language. I think you'll be able to pick that language up the next year, learn how to grammatically put them together, what contexts. And then by the time you know it, you've learned how to speak a different language. And
Yeah.
you've not made any effort really to do it. That's why I read every day. That's why I listen to a podcast every day, a certain amount of time. Just randomly. I read the right books, listen to podcasts, take advice, from people far more successful than me. And I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. Let's just finish this off then and talk about the key takeaways here.
Yeah. So yeah, so the key takeaways obviously for the 10 truths, the hard truths that we've covered today. I mean, I think firstly, live authentically, guided by your values rather than others' expectations, and that's obviously falls in with you can't obviously please everyone. Failure and rejection and things, view challenges as opportunities for growth and to really cultivate some resilience as well. Thinking about your experiences shaping who you are, step outside your comfort zone to create meaningful personal changes. Question the rationality and the reliability of your thoughts and emotions. Think about that. And invest some effort in relationships while accepting that they're possibly maybe often temporary nature. Find peace in life and unpredictability by focusing on what you can actually control, and accept pain and suffering as part of the human experience and grow from those experiences. Take responsibility for your life by owning the consequences of your own choices. And as we just finished up there, develop some self-awareness and use it as a foundation for fulfilling your intentional life as such.
So for me personally, and this
Yep.
I'll sum this up, the path to self-discovery and personal growth is rarely easy.
Yep.
It requires really confronting the uncomfortable realities about ourselves and the world that we actually live in and around us. We really need to acknowledge the factors beyond our control that shape our beliefs and behaviours. And our thoughts and emotions can be irrational, and that pain and suffering are really inevitable parts of life.
Yeah.
So we must accept the change. That change requires discomfort, that relationships actually take work, and that our choices actually really have consequences in what we're doing. Embracing life's hard truths takes courage, but is pivotal in creating really a fulfilling existence. And by accepting reality, owning our choices, and continually growing in self-awareness, we become the best we can be, and also empower to live authentically and joyfully. What about the path then, Richard?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that path can be really challenging, but it will lead you to a life of purpose and ultimately have some meaning. And if we face our fears and challenging our assumptions and acting boldly, we find, or we should find, the freedom to become our most authentic selves. So life's hard truths, once we accept them, become the bedrock for a life well lived, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think we'll wrap up there today. Thanks to everybody that's jumped in the comments. We had quite a lot of interaction there. That was great. Thanks for all of your insights, Jim, into these hard truths. And I know obviously you went through quite a lot of them in your journey. And Jim and I will be back next week as usual for the Wealth Creation Show. So please join us then. And until then, I will leave it there. And I'll speak to you and the rest of you that are watching next week.
Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Jim. Bye.